This lesson is intended to be just an overview and a summary with some additional insights on the 5 basic competencies for business writing and communication. This is based on the textbook, that is the OER free textbook that is available on Canvas, that you should be somewhat familiar with by now, but I wanted to go into each one of these, talk a little bit about specific examples, and mostly encourage you to now dive a little deeper into the textbook, spend some time there. It is meant to be a resource, a reference, and not something you just read as an assignment, but there is good information there to help you complete the major assignments for this class. And so I want to go through those 5 core competencies, provide a little insight into each of those, and then again encourage you to go yourself into the textbook, be aware of what's there, and make use of it as you are working on each of your major assignments for English 203. One of the things that tends to happen is that we are so accustomed to communicating on social media, through text, and other more casual ways of communicating that it can spill over into our business communication, and that is never a good thing. So, the use of emojis, the use of acronyms, the use of incomplete sentences, or all of the things that we tend to do in texting and in social media and elsewhere needs to be set aside when we get into the business world. And so regardless of whether it's an email or a report or a proposal, we need to step up our game and make sure that we are being courteous, that we're not including any language that someone's going to find offensive, that we're being cautious about how we convey our information. We're thinking about the audience and understanding that we want to avoid creating any sense of defensiveness or any opportunities to get distracted. And then we want to conform to a degree, to the degree necessary, to the business conventions that indicate this is a resume. Now that means that it needs to immediately look like a resume, but it can look like there are a lot of opportunities to be creative, and we've already talked about this in class, and you've already done your resume, but there are ways to be creative and imaginative and still stay within the business conventions that send the message to the reader, to the viewer, that this is a resume, or this is a cover letter, or this is a certain kind of report. So be aware of what the expectations are and try to stay within those expectations. And the textbook does a nice job of getting into this in some more detail, and I encourage you to spend some time with that to familiarize yourself with what the expectations are in the business world for each of the types of communication. So I really encourage you to spend the time necessary to go through the textbook chapter on being clear. It goes through these 5 ideas. Now, I've made some changes to them, and I'm going to enhance them and discuss them in a bit of a different way, but spend the time to, this I think is one of the more important pieces of these 5 competencies, is to make sure that your messaging is absolutely clear, that it can't be misunderstood. So step 1, I'm going to resort back to my ancient days in journalism when we used a style called the inverted pyramid. And so just think about a pyramid turned upside down with the tip at the bottom. What that simply means is the most important information comes first. So if it's in an email, if it's in a report, if it's in a document of some kind, whatever communication, whatever you're writing, whatever you are communicating, in business, the most important information needs to go first. This is why we do things like an executive summary. That is intended to get all of that important information right at the beginning, and then we can make our case and provide additional information later on in the document. But start with the most essential information first. Get the attention and deliver the most essential information at the beginning of whatever it is you are doing, from an email to a full report. By coherence, I mean it needs to be logically put together. It needs to follow one idea to the next. You don't want to be scattershot in how you put this information together. It needs to make sense to the reader or the viewer, that they can follow where you're headed step by step by step. So you need to put yourself into the reader's, the audience's place, and think about conveying the information in a logical, straightforward, connected, coherent way. Also, it's just essential to not leave out any of the basics. So make sure that your information doesn't go overboard, that you're not putting stuff in there that doesn't need to be there, but that if there's information that they need to have, whether it's, again, email or report, that you include it. It may only be one sentence. Use accepted English language conventions. Again, if you're using bullet points or numbered points and you're going to shorten sentences into just sort of phrases, that's okay. That's part of proper communication. But when you get to writing an email, when you get to writing a paragraph or writing the executive summary, make sure that you are using all of the accepted language conventions: grammar, spelling, punctuation, capitalization, and use the tools available. Finally, make a format that the textbook refers to, and I like this term. It's high skim. It's easy to, if someone wants to just get a gist and then come back later and read it more deeply, they can get a gist by going through it, by skimming through it. That's what I have tried to do in the report that I provided for you as a sample earlier in this class, where it's a report that I put together. If you go through that, I think you can see that if you just want to just kind of skim, there's enough information done in charts and images and bullet points that you can get the idea pretty quickly, and then you can go back and fill in any gaps. And so think about how to deliver that information as simply and easily as you possibly can in the format. I've just essentially referred to these two ideas when we talk about being concise, but part of being complete is know when to stop. So when you've got the information that you need and you make sure that any essential information is there, don't include things that don't need to be there. It just becomes a distraction. And again, use formatting, use images, use the basic tools that are available to us that are simple to use in Word or PowerPoint or other applications to help you convey the information without necessarily using just words all the time. To be convincing and to be credible, you need to have appropriate research and data. Now, for this class, we're sort of creating mythical projects, but that doesn't mean to just make stuff up that doesn't make any sense. Find data to support the position that you want to take or the information that you want to deliver. Make sure that you are being specific in that information. So you don't want to say, about half or, around 2/3. If you have specific data, use it specifically to back it up and to establish credibility with your reader that you know what you're talking about, that you've done the necessary research, that your research comes from reliable, credible places, and that will significantly enhance the chances of a proposal being accepted, of a progress report being effective, and of a completing report. The final report for this class is powerful and delivers the full message that you want your audience to receive. Particularly with your proposal, but even in your progress report or in your final report, you want to be persuasive. And here's where you need to go back to the things that you've learned in English 102 or in Communication 101 or in other classes about the approach to persuasion. And if you don't remember pathos, logos, ethos, and kairos, there's plenty of information out there. Go refresh your memory about what those things are and how to use them when you are making a presentation to be persuasive. Even if you're not doing a proposal, but you're just doing the progress report or the final report, you still want to be persuasive and convince your audience that what you are saying is reliable, that they should accept positions that you are proposing to them, and that you are getting it, that you understand what you're talking about, and that you are able to convey it in a persuasive way. One of the things that I see a lot in draft proposals is that students tend to equivocate. Sure would like to have some money to help me here. It's not always comfortable for people to say, this is what I want, this is how much I want, this is how I'm going to use it very, very specifically. But that's essential to all of these assignments, that you are absolutely saying exactly what you want or need with all of the support and the backup and the credibility that you need to apply to it. Also, think about what kind of objections you might run into and deal with those up front. You might have, I would encourage you to have other parties read your proposal, read your progress report, read your final report, and have them look for things that they don't understand, or they might object to, or that might not be clear, or that might create some give and take, and try to address those before they come up. So anticipating objections is always really important.